Sometimes games can get bogged down in offering bounty, explosive turns that offer huge amounts of riches and treasure. We've seen loads of these games recently, games like Terraforming Mars, Wingspan, and more recently Earth, which you can hear about on the Gentlemen Sit Down podcast. And so Iki, from designer Kuta Yamada and published by Sorry We Are French, is a 2015 game that's been polished up and rejuvenated with an expansion to boot. And it is an antidote to those kinds of games, a skeletal and restrictive puzzle that's as much about planning and timing as it is about engines and build-up. And it's great. Iki takes place over 12 rounds representing the months in a single year, where players will take the role of businessmen, trying to business the best and hardest out of everyone in the markets of Edo-era Japan. You'll be steering your big businessmen around this circuit of shops and employing workers to staff those shops, getting you a little bonus every turn, and maybe picking up some fish and some tobacco for your own personal collections. Every round has a really simple structure, which starts with placing your little business on a space that'll determine how far your own personal Mr. Business is gonna move. The first spot offering you a sluggish one-space plod, and the last gifting a 4-step sprint. But before you do that, you can take a little bit of money or spend that money on hiring a character from the shop. Every time you hire someone, you'll pick a stand for them to work at and place one of your own little micro-men on the card to show that they belong to you now. Which is exactly what Matt and Quinn's did to me. Having your people in a stall is great for 3 reasons. Firstly, every round they're going to give you a little bonus, presumably because they're just so happy to work for you. Secondly, when you turn up at a stall, you can do business with the people at the stand, doing the main shop action, but also getting a little side deal on the side. And also, if someone else comes along and they deal with your employee, they'll gain some experience. You slide your little man up here, eventually getting them to a point where they retire, where they'll take residence in your own personal player board and continue to give you their bonus every round, even though they're retired. And they also don't need feeding anymore. What's going on in this game? So, to recap, because rules are hard and my grandparents watch these videos, everyone in the comments say hello to Janet and Doug. What do you do in this game? Place a small man to show you how many spaces you're going to move. Hire a character to put into a shop. Move your big man the number of spaces you decided on earlier, and then activate the shop and the people working in it. And that's it. That is all you do on your turn in this game, and you have just 12 turns before the game slams shut and washes away all of your plans like they were sandcastles at high tide. I think this is my favorite thing about Iki. Every single turn is deliberate and thought-provoking, but also shockingly simple. I love it when designs cut out the cruft and excess and focus on reactive play between players, and Iki does this to an amazing degree. It's great. But I have oversimplified just a little. There are a few other scoring considerations that you want to be fulfilling in this game, and the first of those is that you want to get yourself a retired set of all these different colours. If you manage to retire a worker of each colour, you're going to get a big points bonus at the end of the game. So players are incentivized to diversify their portfolios, but are doing so in a market where cards get hoovered up like a toddler with a bag of Haribo. Except these Haribo are people with livelihoods, like boiled egg peddler, trumpet candy salesman, or board game reviewer. Fishies at the fish market are also worth points, but only if you buy one from every single season, and there's only 2 available per season, so getting these is going to be really difficult unless you gun straight for the stand every round. Tobacco and pipes will give you set collection bonuses, but are similarly restrictive to fish, and buildings are these vast resource sinks that score you mega points if you sacrifice whole turns to scrape together the big coins needed. So as you can see, not only are these resources super tight, but so is the money that you need to get them. So you can not hire a character at the start of your turn and instead take $4. But then when an expensive fish costs 9 cash, it has real, please help me budget, my family is dying energy. The real hot stuff here, though, is this resource squeeze combined with the ruthlessness of this track, a cursed baby park of business. I hadn't mentioned that this is a one-way rondel of horror, meaning that it's great if you go first, because you get to choose exactly where you want to go. But now everyone knows exactly where you're going to end up, and they can pepper your landing spot with juicy merchants wanting your attention. Going last, on the other hand, is just horrible. Maybe there's only one space and it sends you sailing past where you want to go, giving up the opportunity to buy a fish for an entire lap or more. The only way that you can get out of your pre-selected movement speed is with a pair of these sandals, but they only add to your movement, which only equates to more control sometimes. Who designed these sandals? Lot's wife? Lot's... Did she design it? Because she couldn't... This dance of blocking spaces and controlling the tempo means that squeezing your way into your exact destination every round feels like a magic trick. And the rounds themselves are so fast that you need to be ruthless in what you're gunning for, and players can see that and stop it. So Iki is good. It's a cracking little game with a simple decision space that's replete with opportunities for reactive and restrictive play. I like this box. Shut Up and Sit Down recommends Iki. It's a great game, with a quick caveat. What if I told you there was a fire? One of the most immediately striking things that jumps out at you when you're reading the rules of Iki is that a fire is going to happen every few rounds, and if your employees are caught in it, they will simply retire in a fire. Retire in a fire, of course, is my generation's version of having a pension. The way you prevent this is by advancing on this firefighting track at the top of the board here, but crucially this also determines the turn order that you place out your workers in at the start of a round. Because it's such a useful track to advance up anyway, and because the fire only has a 1 in 4 chance of hitting your stall, and because it gets weaker as it moves along, rarely in our games did any player find that the fire was that much of a problem, which is strange. We've only actually had 1 death to fire in all of our games. RIP Boiled Egg Peddler, 2023 to 2023. I think it being such a minor part of this game means that it's a spritz of random friction that isn't that satisfying to deal with, because it's not about getting in the heads of your other players, it's just something that happens during the game. It's a little superfluous, but not in a way that ruins the rest of the experience.
How have they made a game, Tom, that I've not played, that has me being told I have to put out a fire, and I'm really quite bored at that idea and I just want to collect fish?
How did you get in here?
I don't know. How do I get out?
Oh god. Oh no. The last thing I wanted to mention here is that I love how Iki changes at different player counts. At 2, a slightly smaller board, neutral characters, and 1 space being off limits every round turns this game into a duel, a poised shopping spa where only 1 player shall emerge victorious. At 4, this game feels like a bustling market, packed with opportunity and life. And at 3, you get a little bit of a mix that's not as thematically satisfying as either end, but still pleasant and nippy. So Iki is a cracking game, according to us, but what about its expansion? I haven't played it yet. I haven't played the expansion to Iki, but I will have played it in the future. So how about we go into the future?
Hey, Future Tom, are you there? Future's bad. Oh no, really? God's real and Zuckerberg bought him? Ugh. I know. What about Musk? Dead, actually. Oh, good. He put his brain into a monkey's brain and then the monkey into a submarine. And it crashed? Burned. Oh, okay. How? It was a Tesla. Oh, right. Past was good, wasn't it? It always seems that way. Future's bad, though. Only once you're in it. Can I go back? That's for memories. They're so small now. Only because they're part of you. And one day for someone else. So it goes. Do I got to review the expansion now? Yeah. All right. Here in the future, we've played the Iki Akabono expansion, and it's all right. I think this is one of those expansions to get if you've played the base game to death and want a little bit more. It's not the kind of expansion that completes the base game or introduces necessary variety. It's just sort of a bit more, and it also makes the game a little bit weird. So, in the box, you get 2 extra boards that you strap onto either side of your copy of Iki to turn it into a freak mega board. One of these boards is an entirely aesthetic affair that just holds the cards from the base game and the new expansion, but the other board is where the new stuff is, the bridge and the river. The 2 new bits of the game you're gonna compete to Iki all over the best. The river introduces boats, which you can build whenever you'd normally build the base game's buildings. These then sit on the river and can be interacted with by yourself or by other players, conferring you a little bonus.
There's a boat that gets you handy, one-use abilities. There's a boat that lets you do little trades. There's one boat that lets you access a secret shop for some more fish and tobacco. And whenever you use someone else's boat, you'll get to move up this trade track, which will spit out some loose change every time there's a fire. And on top of the river, we've got the bridge, which hosts 2 personalities per season. If you go and have a chat to one of these actual historical figures, they'll come back to live with you and give you their special ability for the rest of the game. Maybe some endgame scoring or a special one-use power. We've also got some nice extra bits here, some new fishies and tobacco pouches for variety, a deck of characters that turn up once every round for a tighter turnover, and as well as this, you get some tweaks to the 2-player game that make it a little tighter and a little meaner. Thing is, I quite like these additional bits and bobs, and I wish the expansion was just this, some variety to the cards that you're used to seeing over and over in your games of Iki. Instead, all the new buildings and characters and personalities link into the new mechanic of these boats. Boats that I not only don't find that engaging, but also think bloat the game a little. Iki is such a svelte and concise design package that this expansion had me a little distracted, I think. I just liked the size of Iki. This squat square board is lush to sit around and ponder over. It's clean, it's exactly as busy as it needs to be. With these 2 extra boards, the square footage of this game is just larger. It feels clunkier. You feel like your attention is more divided between different systems rather than focused on this really lean puzzle. I guess what I mean to say is that I don't even know if Iki really needs this. I don't know if you need this unless you've played Iki to death and you know the ins and outs and you need a whole new system to dive into. For me, we were like, 7 or 8 games of Iki in and still just content to just play the base game. It's really good. It's really solid. Get that first. Maybe get the expansion if you play it so much that you're just bored of seeing these merchants. Do we still do alternative recommendations at the end of videos? Yeah, sure thing, we do. Beyond the Sun is really good. It's a game that has lots of big decisions from quite small actions. Very simple little game with one worker to place, but you have to think about a lot of things while you play it. It's kind of similar to Iki in that way. I'll also always recommend simpler Uwe Rosenberg games if you want that kind of nasty style worker placement. Games like Noosefjord or OG Agricola for savage blocking and being nasty and having to think about other people getting their head style. Also, a cool small box recommendation would be The Red Cathedral. Tiny little game, really good rondel, a little bit more like numbers go up and kind of get lots of resources and juice and engine than Iki is, but still very good. Still worth a play. Did a review of that back a while ago. It'll be on the screen right now. Great game. Thing is, there's still nothing quite like Iki though. It's very unique. Is there anything like Iki in the future? Iki 2. Oh, is it any good? I can't say. Paradox, isn't it? I guess. Yeah. So what am I doing in the future? What does it look like? I'm still reviewing board games. Afraid so, buddy. Yeah. Is Matt still alive? Mm-mm. Oh, no. Internet got him. It's real now. Why? Did a positive review of Stomp the Plank. The elephant game? With the discs, yeah. For 5-year-olds? That's why they got him. They thought he was taking the mick. And was he? Nah, he was dead serious. Poor guy. They had it coming. Fair enough.